Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Pigskin Breakdown Show. I am Brandon Leonard, joined by John Gunderson today, and we got a couple special guests on our show, presented by Sports Guys Iowa. Be sure to follow us on social media for all our clips, highlights, and show updates. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can also listen to full podcasts on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And talking about our two guests today, JD, this is a fun one. We've never done the combo cast. So pretty neat. We've got some Central College royalty is what I'll go ahead and I'll say it. We're here to gas up you guys and pump your tires. So that's cool. We've got head coach Jeff McMartin here and defensive coordinator Cody Baethke. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and talk about the Dutch program.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you betcha. We'll just start off. We'll focus on you quick, Coach McMartin. Central's long been recognized as one of the premier D3 programs in the country, and you've accumulated an incredible list of accomplishments throughout your career. Why don't you take us through your coaching journey and how you ultimately became the head coach at Central, and what has allowed the program to sustain the success that it has for so many years?
Well, really quickly, I went to Central College as an undergraduate student and played football here. During the time I was playing football, I ended up having 2 broken arms back-to-back seasons. And during that time, really it was kind of like, I do a lot of reflection when you're standing there. There's a little bit of detach, and there always is with anybody that's injured. You want to be practicing, and you're kind of out for a while. And while I was doing that, I was thinking about what I wanted, what I was missing, and how much this looked like fun of just coaching, being a part of the game in that angle. And that's where I really decided that was something I wanted to do. And so then got a chance to student coach for just a part of the season. I was out for the year with my arm at that time, and caught the tail end of helping Oskaloosa High School for about half of their season, and really enjoyed that work for a guy named Jerry Staten, who was a legendary high school coach here in the state of Iowa, and learned a lot from him and had a great experience. And my own high school experience was not that way. It was probably on the opposite end of that as far as our connection and relationship with our coaches and just how our seasons played out and everything. So it was fun to be a part of something like that. And having already been a part of something like that at Central, really started to kind of get a good idea of what coaching looked like and felt like for me. And then I followed that season up with another broken arm. And then I student coached at Central that year. And that's when I really just went all in, and then ended up getting a graduate assistant job at Wake Forest. I coached there for 2 years, got my master's at Wake, and then went to Illinois Wesleyan. I coached there for a while, football and track. And then I was at the University of Rochester, did both football and track. And then I'd been the defensive line coach at Illinois Wesleyan and at Rochester. Then I went to Beloit College and was head track and field coach there for 5 years, along with the offensive line coach and tight ends. We ran the wing T, so there wasn't much difference in the tight ends and the offensive linemen as far as like what they had to do and what you had to teach them. It was all seamless. We didn't go out for a lot of passes, and so it worked out pretty good. Beloit really was a great job for me because I worked with some great people. It's not an easy place to win, and you really had to find alternate ways of being successful to have a chance. And we did. Like I said, we ran the wing T. Nobody else did that in that league. So we were hard to prepare for. And we played really good defense, and we beat people on special teams. We blocked a lot of punts and some of those things. And so for me, it was a great experience because if you look at where Beloit has been since Coach DeGeorge has left, they've really been challenged to having winning seasons and things. And I wish nothing but the best for them. Like I say, it was a great 5 years for me, but a lot of people would be really probably wise to follow his model of like how to win at a tough place to win. And he did an amazing job there. And then went to DePaul University as an offensive coordinator for 4 years and coached track there. And then came to Central in 2004 as the head coach. And I was also OC and quarterbacks coach to install what we wanted to do offensively. And then I've been here ever since and have evolved from not coaching the offensive quarterbacks and not coordinating the offense to just being a head coach. And then throughout time have kind of helped on the defensive side a little bit more, sometimes the offensive side. This year I'm going to help with the running backs. So I'm excited to dip my toe in that water a little bit, as well as being our head coach. So that's my background.
Certainly an extensive background, that's for sure. You look at your coaching profile too on the Central website, and goodness gracious, is it fair to say you're the dean of the ARC? Have you been around? You're the longest tenured head coach?
I don't know if that's good or bad. When I got hired, I was definitely very new to it all, and it's gone really fast. These last 22 years have gone really fast, faster than you tell people, something will happen really quickly and you nod and half believe them. But these last 22 years have really gone quickly for me with the coaching changes we've had this offseason. And I probably been here the longest now.
Yeah. And I think it's Ferentz, Steve Ryan on a Morningside. And I think Coach McMartin in the state. I think that's
Yeah, absolutely. And served as the president of the AFCA.
Yeah.
Been on the board with them. And it says you're only the 11th D3 coach in their history to serve on that board, and did so with Ron Shipper as well.
Yeah, it was neat. When I was an assistant coach, I had a chance to watch Coach Skipper go through the AFCA board process, be on the board, then become the president. And that was in the 90s. I was like, wow, that'd be really cool if that ever happened to me, even though I didn't anticipate that ever happening. It just seeing it, you're like, wow, that'd be awesome. And so to get voted onto the board was a highlight for me in my coaching career, one of my highlights for sure. And to be able to serve on it for the last 10 years has been really special. And getting to be the president, it's definitely a good thing to have happen to somebody. And I appreciated my opportunity to help Division III and help the AFCA and be a part of it all, be a part of the process. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I worked with a lot of really good people, met a lot of really good people. All in all, it was a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, certainly a high honor. And you talk about building relationships and maintaining relationships. I want to switch gears a little bit here for a relationship that seems like you probably maintained for maybe close to 2 decades now. And we'll turn the tide over to Coach Baethke. So you've had some successful stops in your tenure as well, Cody. Most recently at Coe as the defensive coordinator, just right there to the heart for me as a Co-Hawk fan. But nevertheless, it's a super cool story that you're going to be able to return home to a place where you played college. Walk us through your journey a little bit and what made now the right time to leave Cedar Rapids and go back to Central.
Yeah. So played here. I also had 2 older brothers that played here. So I've been coming to Central football games for a really long time, and then ended up playing for 5 seasons. I broke my ankle my junior year, and so got a medical red shirt that year. And then after I played, graduated in December, actually helped in that spring in the recruiting, like pseudo intern type of position, when helping there, getting my feet in the door a little bit from that standpoint. Went and coached at a high school in the suburbs of Chicago, Glenbard South. Spent a year there working with Jeremy Cordell. Learned a lot from him. In fact, we have some packages in our defense that we run that I learned from him, when that we use his playbook, actually, his terminology, everything. Was there for a year, and then got a chance to go coach at University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire as a graduate assistant. Had a teammate from here, actually, that was up there, Jordan Lucian. And he had called and said, hey, I know you've been wanting to get into the college route. What do you think? We got a spot. Went up there, interviewed. Ended up getting it there. Was there for about a year and a half. I came back down and worked a team camp here at Central. Went back, and Coach Mack had called and said they had an opening. And so came back in 2013 and coached here for up through the 17. After the 17 season, got hired at Coe in 18. But my first year coached tight ends, which was a different world for me as a defensive back and going through that route. And my dad was a high school football coach, defensive coordinator for, he was a coach, I think 36 years. He's going to be mad. I don't remember, but was a defensive coordinator for 32 or 33 of those years. And so all that background there. And then here you go, offense. But even it's cool for me, Coach Jones, who's still coaching here, like that whole offseason, I sat down with him and learned protection schemes and how does it work? Why would we call it this way or that? And so just growing through that part of it. Coached baseball for the first 2 years, which I was not a great baseball player. So I had to learn. I worked with our outfielders, and Coach Stevens at the time would be like, hey, these are the drills you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it the best I can. But I look back and I'm like, man, it kind of really taught me even just, hey, coaching offense and then coaching a different position. Like there's a lot of different ways to be successful. And I think I've been pretty fortunate of here. Coach, we talk about like, hey, when maybe his high school experience was a little bit different than what he experienced here and at Oski and with those guys. I mean, I played for Hall of Fame high school football coach and Kurt Ritchie. And then eventually Coach McElhenney, he's a Hall of Fame coach as well. Those are the 2 guys I played for and just had really good experiences through that process. And Jeremy, and then Todd Glazier, who's now out of coaching, but he was the head coach at Eau Claire. You guys obviously know the Staker family. It just, again, it's hard for me because, man, not all my experiences were really positive with the head coaches and who I had and all of that stuff. But ultimately leading to this spot, Coach Mack, he brought me in, gave me that intern part of it going through there. When I was here the last time, I was able to be selected for at that time, it was the 30 under 30, but now it's the 35 under 35. And I know Coach Mack was his connections was a big part of helping me get that as you go through, and being able to do that. And I've had some interviews and things or conversations with different positions, head coaching positions, or things where I've always relayed, hey, Coach Mack, what are some things I can think about as I go into this situation and everything else, and what does that look like? And so just always have had another voice to go to for experiences and stuff. And Coach Mack, we joked last summer when we were talking, like last year I coached against Coach Ritchie and against Coach Mack. He's like, you might be the first guy that's ever coached against their previous coaches. And I was like, I'm not sure that's what I set out to do in this coaching world, but
he beat them both. So
sometimes you get lucky too, but going through it and just having that where we just have always still communicated back and forth. So there's always that relationship. And when this position came open and what that could look and everything else, you start thinking about, okay, long-term and where do you want to be? And I got going to be 11-year-old daughter next week. I got just turned 9-year-old son and a 6-year-old son. And my wife went to Central. She played volleyball here as well. We met here. And for us, it's like Central's always been home to us, but you play here last year. And my wife's showing my kids, hey, this is where your mom and dad went to school and all of this kind of stuff. These were our teammates and everything else. And so I just ultimately felt, man, this is the right time for us as a family, as our kids are getting older and going into the Pella school districts. And it's a really good school district and all of those things, the community. My college defensive coordinator, Coach DeWard, who coached here forever in our Hall of Fame as well. He's the mayor of Pella. Like, how many places can go and be like, oh yeah, by the way, our former defensive coordinator is the mayor of the whole town that we're located in. That's a pretty unique thing. And Brandon, you said, hey, I got the Central red on. Every time we played Central, Coach DeWard would find me and tell me I had the wrong color of red on. That was the first thing when he called me and said, you finally have the right red back on. So
definitely a full circle moment for you. It seems like you're meant to be a football player. And I grew up in Ladora, Iowa, so I remember reading about the Baethke family and the Pioneer Republican all throughout this.
Mostly my brothers, but
yeah, I was going to say, I remember, man, was it Dustin? Was Dustin, he the stud running back?
Don't tell him that. He doesn't need any more ego, though.
Yeah. JD, edit that out. But you talk about and wanting to come home. Coach Mack, could you maybe tell me a little bit more about some of your favorite things about Central College and just the Pella community in general?
Yeah, it's a unique place. And one of the things that I try and talk to like recruits about and our players and other people, every school has a culture. Every football program has a culture. We're not unique. We're not the only place that has it. And they're all different. And I think that's one of the really special things about the opportunity, like for high school students to pick a college or for high school football players to pick a school they're going to play as. It's not just the school colors or how big your weight room is. It's really like, what are the people about? What's the culture like? And those things match up value-wise with what your values are and who you are. And when I think about Central and when I think about Pella, a lot of the values that I have, that our family has, really fit those things well. It's a place that is very relationship-based. It's very connected. I think that they do that very well here at the school, with the professors, the faculty, coaching staff. Like, we work really well with the faculty here. By and large, it's pretty seamless. And the administration, admissions, everyone here is very on board with helping people be the best they can be, helping them achieve excellence. And that's important to me. I think that this is a place that really appreciates quality and things that are done well. Like, if you go into Pella, it's a very well-kept, maintained town. It's a very clean place. The businesses are all thriving. There's a lot of success here. And I think that's because people are willing to work hard. They take pride in what they do. And they also hold themselves to pretty high standards. It's a community that's very active. The high schools are both really successful in sports and academically. Either way you go to Pella Christian, you're going to get a great education. And I think the same thing can be said about the college. So all those things marry up really well. The businesses that are in this community too have had a lot of success. They're very family oriented, and the Kuiper family. And then you have the Vermeer family, Vermeer, and then Precision Incorporated, Precision Pulling. You've got some companies here in town that have deep roots, and loyalty is really important. And that's been something that's been really prevalent at our college as well. Once again, you go into the community, you go into the workplace, you go into the college. A lot of these things are all very the same. When you talk about our coaching staff, there's a lot of loyalty within our coaching staff. We've had 3 head coaches since 1960. And then you look at Pella Windows and you look at Vermeer, and the same people have owned and ran that company ever since they were founded. And many of the people that live in this town have lived in this town for their entire lives. And so those are things I really appreciate. Ultimately, it's the people that I've worked with, the people I've coached. I've really enjoyed all those relationships.
Collaborative effort, that's for sure. And you talk about there's just the roots run deep in that community. I think that's one thing that's really admirable about your institution and then just the city in general.
Yeah.
And you talk about, I think it is a unique experience, and it just felt like a place where you could seeing yourself settle down there someday. So kudos to everything that the Pella community has built as well. And I love that when you go visit campus, you get yourself a little Dutch letter if you want. That's another
Yeah.
example of the collaboration.
Yeah, you can go in those bakeries and spend a lot of money there, I'll tell you. So when they give you something for free, you better take it. So you better hand out Dutch letters. You better grab one as fast as you can.
Well, that's duly noted. We'll make sure the masses hear that too. Let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about the 2026 Dutch and what to expect from the offensive side of things. Coach Mack, sounds like you gravitate towards there, maybe at least a little bit more. What excites you more about this year's offense? And could you tell us a little bit more about some key returning players that fans should know about and maybe some strengths that we'll play to without revealing the whole playbook?
I think that we've always bought into a philosophy of your players are your most important aspect of whatever you do on offense or defense, and then utilize your strengths and then play to those things. And then out of that, your formations start to really take shape, and then you run plays on those formations, formations, plays. And I think that this year will be very similar to that. We're going to be a younger football team on both sides of the ball than we were last year or the year before. You're seeing finally now almost everybody, the fifth year COVID thing is long gone, and you're going through some new cycles of players and everything. And so we're going to be a younger football team up front. We'll have a new quarterback this year, so there's a quarterback battle going on. And where I think a lot of our experience is going to be is at receiver and also at running back. And Jace Grender has a chance to come back and be our starting tailback this year. Cody Klein has played a lot for us, and really, if you had two starting running backs, those would be your two starters from a year ago. And both of them were very impactful for our football team in every way, shape, or form. Cam Schulte did a really great job for us at wide receiver until he got injured against Wartburg, and that definitely affected things for us. He was hard to tackle, hard to cover, just a big body, very athletic, very physical. So he did a great job. And then Tate Jaworski on the other side, our other wide receiver is a 6'4" kid from Grundy Center High School, and really good football player. And so we felt like we had a couple of bookends on both sides with big bodies, and then you put Klein inside there with jet sweeps, motions, throwing the ball, handing the ball, and then Jace Grender at tailback really gives us some really good weapons, both between the tackles and then getting out on the perimeter. So I think that you'll see us move the ball around a lot, but get the ball in the hands of those people as much as we can, because they've done a great job for us going into the season. So that's our outlook. The preseason is going to teach us a lot on where the running game and passing game from a just usage is going to fall for us. But certainly we're going to utilize those people to make plays for us.
Let's change gears, go to the defense here. Coach Baethke, you've built a reputation as one of the best defensive minds in D3 football. Talk through what you're giggling, but it's true. It's dang true. Yeah, like I said, we're here to pump your tires. Since returning to Pella, what's the process been like getting acclimated to a different roster, coaching staff, and how quickly were you able to really get and evaluate your personnel and start really emphasizing what your defensive philosophy is?
Yeah, so that first week was meeting with all of our defensive players, our defensive staff, kind of, hey, one-on-one, what did you guys like? What are some areas that you think you might want to switch and do differently and all that kind of stuff? And I kind of have the idea of, hey, this is where I want it to go and what I eventually want to get it to look like. But sometimes there's that process of getting it to that point and what that looks like. And okay, hey, where is it similar? Where's some things like, hey, these techniques, maybe we called them differently at Co versus what they called them here. But if it's the same thing, why not call it what everybody else has been calling it and me change? I do this for a living, so it's a lot easier for me to change my terminology than to ask 50, 18 to 22-year-olds to switch their terminology. And obviously there's going to be certain spots where it's like, nope, we are going to change it to this. But hey, where it's at, and Coach Hodges did a great job before here. Like 2 years ago, number one defense in the country in scoring defense, right? So it's like, you don't got to come in here and do all this other stuff because it's not working, right? It's what worked. Okay, maybe where can we find some tweaks or different things like that? And how do we kind of marry those two up a little bit? So I think that's kind of what we did throughout leading up to spring ball. And then it was, hey, we got to figure out what we do have and what these guys are good at. And so it's, okay, this is kind of the base. This is 70% of what we want to run. We're going to run that and we're going to install it. And there are some moments where I'm like, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do that. But I'm like, let's let these guys kind of figure out, especially in spring ball when you're limited on what you can do anyways with our rules and stuff like that. So it's kind of finding that balance. And so I think there's still going to be what coach said, like camp's going to be pretty big for us of, okay, what can we do? And in our scrimmage, okay, this is where we're good at. And maybe, and I think to some level, for me, probably growing up with my dad's coach, I was more than outgoing. West Bend Mallard. That's where I remember watching that. And that's where my dad first started coaching. And so it's like, you saw him do it in a lot of different ways. And I think that's where I've kind of tried to grasp that a little bit of how can we be multiple. And that's how I would describe our defense. Like, we are multiple. We could have ran a lot of different stuff. And that's what we're going to get to here. But it might take us a little bit more time to get to that point of, okay, hey, this is what these guys are really good at. And every year's a little bit different. Maybe we can bring a lot of pressure this year. Maybe we can't. Or we can play more man, or we need to play more zone. And I think that's going to be part of that feeling out process here on that leading up really through August. You get to that game week in September where you got to have an idea at least. But even that, I think things can evolve. And last year at Co, we had a lot of inexperience in terms of guys that hadn't played. We had the year before, I think we started like our first 4 games, all seniors between 5th years and regular seniors. And so you got to go through that process where it's, okay, what can these guys do, one, in practice, but then ultimately what can they do in a game? When what happens when we go out there and at some point someone's going to punch us in the mouth, right? Like, it's going to happen. And how are we going to respond in that situation, I think, is ultimately going to tell us how good of a football team we're going to be. Because in practice, okay, yeah, your buddies are going to give you a hard time and what's on this or that. But on a Saturday, everybody sees it. You're not great at that. And ultimately, that's our job. And my job, I think, as a play caller is, our guys aren't great at this, then I'm dumb if I'm calling it on Saturday a bunch. Obviously, there's certain moments where you got to do what you got to do. But if I'm putting our guys in positions they're not great at, then ultimately that's my fault. Like, how do we do that? Figure that out. What are our guys good at? And then put them in those positions on Saturdays. And so I think that's where we have to go. We don't have necessarily a bunch of guys that have varsity experience on our defense. We have some guys that played, but maybe they weren't counted on as being the guy, or, hey, you're the full-time guy out there. And what happens now when you're in that moment? And the reality is sometimes that's a good thing though, too. Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. You're like, yeah, this guy was good, so I'm good, right? That's just, I'm the guy now. So we're going to go figure that out and work through that part of it and build off of that with those guys. But we're going to continue to build that. We're still going to have that mindset of, we're not interested in being good, man. We want to be elite. We want to be the best of the best. And that's hard. And you're going to fail at some point doing that. But that's going to be our mindset and what we're going to work for and go through. And I feel like the guys have been really excited about that and really embraced that part of it. Oh yeah, hey, this is awesome. Let's go. And let's not talk just about our conference, but let's talk about the country, because the top teams in our conference can play with anybody in the country. And there's a lot of examples of that. Let's go and keep pushing to climb to that level.
Absolutely. Coach Mack, you guys showed last year that you can play with anyone. It was ultimately just missed the NCAA DIII playoffs, but still a successful season overall, at least from wins and losses. Came right down to the end, 8-2. And we got the page turned there on 25. Let's turn to 26 and let's talk a little bit about what lies ahead. You guys have, I guess I haven't done a super big deep dive into a lot of D3 schedules, but I feel like you guys have one of the more interesting schedules. Okay. So on paper, let's just break this down. You got 3 games on the road to start, all 3 out of state, 2 in Minnesota, and then you guys go down to Jackson, huh? That's bizarre to me. Tell us a little bit about this schedule and what went into getting this put together. You guys have played Gustavus Adolphus before. Looks like you played Northwestern St. Paul before. How'd you fall into Belhaven?
With Luther leaving the league, we had already had these other 2 games scheduled, and Luther was a home game for us going into the season. So you feel like, hey, you can do a 4-6 season, and you'll do 6-4 the next year, because 2027 and Gustavus and these guys are all going to come our way. And so then everybody will be talking about all the home games we have. But with Luther leaving, it started to take on a kind of a world of, now we got to find another game. And this is going to be a challenge that our league is going to face for the long term now unless we can expand, because there are not a lot of Division III leagues out there that only have 8 teams in them anymore. Most of the leagues that are out there, especially in the Midwest, they're 9 and 10 team leagues, sometimes 12 team leagues. And so They don't need that week 3 game or that week 4 game that's non-conference. They're going to play 1, sometimes 2 non-conference games, and then they get in their league right away. And that's how we were. We were a 9-team league, and we had that. And so when that opened up, first of all, it was just a year ago when we were dealing with this. A lot of these non-conference games get scheduled out 2, 3, 4 years in advance. You already know who you're playing. We're going to be playing Randolph-Macon in 2028. Okay. Like, we know what's coming down the pipe, but when this happens out, it's opened up. And of all places, it opens up in your 3rd or 4th week. One of those weeks is your bye, and the other week is a game you got to schedule. And just trying to find teams to play, it was not easy. And fortunately, Belhaven is in a similar conference size, and they had a need for that game on that weekend. And they played Wisconsin River Falls last year down there. And the head coach at the time, he's now the head coach at Drake, Matt Walker, and I used to coach together at DePauw. So I knew Matt really well. I was like, what was it like? Tell me a little bit about your travel and the experience and the team. And so it seemed like, although it'll be an 11-hour bus ride, interestingly enough for them, they have 14-hour bus rides that are conference games. So if we want to feel sorry for ourselves, we can look at what they got to do within their own league. And when I was at DePauw, the same thing. We played Millsaps down in Jackson, Mississippi. So I've been in a football game in Jackson, Mississippi before. And then we played Trinity, and we played all over the place, Kentucky, Tennessee. We just kind of went everywhere with our league. So that was pretty normal. So it's something that, yeah, we probably will not do again in the short term anyway. We shouldn't have to do again, because now we have a chance to kind of get out and schedule that week 3 game as best that we can. And then we'll have both Gustavus and Northwestern coming to our place in 2027. So it's a unique thing. What's really interesting is, obviously, a lot of people have talked to me about it because it's something you don't see every day. But when we talk to our players about what this is going to look like, our upperclassmen, our seniors, yeah, you want to play at home for sure, but they really do play on the road. They are very much road warriors. They're guys that enjoy it. When you play college football, I kind of feel like I always liked road games. I always feel like you bond a little bit more. It's like you against everybody, and you're around those guys in the hotel and on the bus, and you just get to spend, I think, that quality times that make memories outside of what's on the field. And so it can be a really good thing for us. I don't think that it has to be a negative or something that we really focus on too. For us, if we're really good at what we do, and we're going to be who we say we are, and we're going to be a process-oriented football team, we're going to take things one day at a time and be very focused on what we do on the field, not the field. And if we have to get ready to play a road game, we'll get ready to play a road game. And if we get to be at home, we'll be at home. And if you play a good team, it doesn't matter where you play, it's going to be a challenge. And we just have to be ready to be our best for 10 weeks in a row.
Yeah, Coach, I would just add, moving recently back from the South, you're playing in Jackson, Mississippi in September. It's going to be about 90 with about 90% humidity.
Yeah.
And the last breeze they had in Jackson, Mississippi was in about 1989. It's going to be hot, and you're going to have your boys ready. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll have to hydrate really well. And when I was at Wake, humidity would come in about April, and it wouldn't leave until October. And so every day you just go out and sweat. That's all you do. And you have to get used to it, but certainly something that we'll have to prepare our guys for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we'll
that
go to Minnesota and Mississippi in the course of 7 days.
covered a lot of ground. Yeah, but like you said, a lot of it's about perspective and having a positive perspective. It's a great time for camaraderie. And I know there's a lot of Iowa kids on the roster, but maybe not have seen the South or Mississippi at all.
Yeah,
Maybe their
right.
only opportunities. So definitely take advantage of that and enjoy that. Let's pivot a little bit about to the later part of the schedule, the conference side of things. Annually, one of the toughest leagues, and both you guys have plenty of experience with that. Tell us a little bit about what your expectations are for the conference race and what's it going to take to compete for that ARC title.
I think that the recipe has been similar in the last few years. Is like you're gonna have to be really sound defensively. You gotta kind of give yourself some chances offensively to make plays, and so you can't turn it into a 52-51 game. Our league hasn't seen a lot of that traditionally. Are there high scoring games in our conference? You bet. But the games that we've played in that have been for a conference championship, to have an opportunity to go to the playoffs or win a league or whatever, have been close games. And you got to find ways to win close games in our league. I think you have to take care of the football. Turnovers, or coaches talk about it all the time. It almost gets ad nauseum about it. People just almost tune it out, but it really does affect you. And when you look back at who wins and who loses, there's a big correlation between that. Giving up big plays. Like, I thought we had a really close game with Cole last year, and we gave up 2 long touchdown runs. And that was a big difference in the football game. And You can play great for a long time, and then you do something like that, and it changes everything. And so you can't give up big plays. You've got to take care of the football offensively. I think you've got to be efficient in the red zone. When you have those opportunities, you got to find a way to score. Your kicking game's got to be good. And I don't think that's going to be any different this year. I don't think that there's 7 teams out there that, man, they're just going to roll 50 every week, and there's going to be no defense played in the conference, and it's just going to be this wide open Wild West thing. It's going to be a battle every week with the teams in our league. Then they're going to strive to keep the game manageable score-wise, and the majority of the teams in our league are going to want to find a way to be effective in the running game, and taking steps to manage that on both sides of the ball is going to be really important. Wartburg has been able to win our league 4 straight years now, and that's a great credit because they've had to win a lot of big games to do that, and they found a way to do that. If you look at what's occurred to get to that point, that's what they've done. They've played great defense, and they've managed football well. They haven't beaten themselves, and their kicking game has been really strong.
Ghost, I would say when we were talking preseason, because we're starting to do our preseason shows, November 7th, Wartburg at Central, probably one to circle on the calendar. For those of you who are listening who've never been to Central, I think they have one of the greatest, what I would call Division III stadiums in the state. And I'd explain it this way, Coach. Kind of your almost a little rock bowl kettle moraine that you built. And on the home side, beautiful stadium. But they make sure that you're in the wind on the visitor side. And it's just perfect because the wind comes off that swale, gets you. It's a really tough place to play. And I think that game is going to be really exciting. What do you think, Gus?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of great games to go through. You look back, and at least the last few years, we had Coach Hoskins on the other day, and we talked about right now, it seems like there's a level with the top 3. It's Co, Central, and Wartburg. Depending on the years, things can be interchanged, but those 4th and 5th teams seem to be kind of closing the gap a little bit with they're starting to make some improvements over there in Indianola. We're personally really excited to see what Coach Novak can do over at Loris, and UD's returns a lot too. I'm never going to miss Wartburg and Central or any of those matchups, vice versa. I'm always going to be excited for those. I believe that's probably senior day, looking at things too, last home game.
Yeah, it'll be our last home game. So it'll be an important and special game for our players. And it's funny. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen before we get to November 2nd.
Yeah, Coach, you're going to only talk about week 1. We get it. We're going to talk, talk about week 9. Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice that you're talking about it and everything, and good. And I get it. I understand. But I think about that as like, wow, we play all these other teams that, yeah, like Co, we're going to play at Co, and we open up with Dubuque at home for our first home game, and they're going to be, I think, really good.
Yeah,
the end of the season is going to be at Simpson, and you've got to go to Nebraska Wesleyan. You have to go to Loris, and with it, and I think he's going to do a great job there. And then VE will be at home. They've made, I think, a lot of improvements. So everybody's getting better and doing some really good things, and it's going to be a battle every week.
And it's not just new coaches. There's some turnover, but it's all familiarity within the conference. It's the Battle of Williamsburg on October 17th, right? I guess, or is he a Holbrook native? Coach Don?
He went to Williamsburg. He's Holbrook. That's his address, but he went to Williamsburg. And yeah, I've known Jacob for a really long time. His mom and my mom actually were really good friends. And it's a unique connection. So he's got 2 brothers. I got 2 brothers. And when each one of us, we're all first graders, but they were also all in my mom's class. And actually, I golfed with him a couple of weeks ago in a tournament. And so there's some friendly back and forth. And Coach Miller, who's the DC at Co, and Coach Myeri, we coached together here under Coach McMartin as well. And I went through that when I went to Co from Central. Man, those are guys you recruited. Those are guys you've been through battles with and everything else. And I liken it to its brothers. I want to see them succeed, but when we play them, I want to get after them. And I think that's the same way on both sides. There's that respect of, we know that's a good football coach over there, and they know what they're doing. It's good football players and all of that stuff. But next time I see him in the offseason, I want to make sure he can't say anything to me about the game, but definitely some familiarity with those guys for sure. But good coaches. And I think if you're a competitor, ultimately, isn't that what you want? At least I think so. You want those types of games. You want the guys that you're like, man, I know these guys are good, and I know these guys are good players, good coaches. You got to be in your game. You get the games where it's like we can play okay and we can win this game. I'm one of those ones where we got to be locked in all the time because I know maybe the fans don't always. I know my wife, she disagrees with me on that. She's like, I think you guys can just win 50-0 every game. That'd be great. And I'm like, those are the ones you remember as you go through those back and forth battles.
Yeah, and I think that's a credit to not only Central because last year you played Randolph-Macon and they were a top 20 team, I believe. No one in the ARC is really trying to schedule cupcakes. It's iron sharpens iron, and the whole conference, I believe, has been elevated as a result of that. So kudos to you, and best of luck with the upcoming season. And we really appreciate you guys coming on. And would you like to end with some rapid fire questions, some stuff that's a little bit more lighthearted? We would like to take the time to ask you guys have a favorite NFL team. Who are you guys following on Sundays after film?
The 49ers, man.
Bang, bang,
I have no idea why that started, but I have nobody else in my family growing up as a 49ers fan, but they're winning the Super Bowl every year until they don't. In fact, the guys in here, Coach Horowitz said something. He's like, man, I never had an issue with the 49ers, and now all you do is talk about them. And they got some Iowa connection, so that's cool. You root for those guys out there to do that. And so, yeah, so I've been a 49ers fan forever. I've brainwashed my daughter to be a 49ers fan. My wife's a Packers fan, so they don't always make all the right decisions.
Moving to Indiana at DePauw, we started to root for the Colts a lot there as a family, and our head coach knew some of their staff, and so you just get a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look a few times at that place, and I think they were always fun to watch. And so I've tended to root for the Colts a lot in football. The NFL, it's funny, I was thinking about the other day, I don't have as great a passion for particularly one team in the NFL. A lot of people do. I'm a really passionate Chicago White Sox baseball fan, though, and I care about it. I follow them religiously. It's been horrible for the last 4 years, just an embarrassment. And now this year they're good. So I'm super happy right now. Happy as sports fan as I can be right now this season with how they're playing. But yeah, like basketball, NHL, that kind of stuff. Like I enjoy watching it. I love to watch NFL games and college football games and all that kind of jazz. I don't have maybe the passion for the Colts the way they do the White Sox. But if I had to pick a team, that's who I'd pick.
Coach, you know Walker, the coach at Drake?
Yeah, they're really good friends. Yeah, we coached together there. He was the receivers coach when I was the OC there, and he wasn't married at the time. He used to come over and have lunch with my wife and I every day. And we would joke about this, but this is the truth. We would make sandwiches almost every day, and he would pile so much meat on. It was like something Scooby-Doo-y. It was like a Scooby sandwich. And it wasn't just once. It was like every day. And I was like, Matt, I don't make that much money. We got to take it easy here.
Hey, now that he's coaching D1, you can return the favor and run it up on his tab.
Sandwiches. I'm going to go eat at his house. Yeah.
A lot easier to find now in Des Moines, I'm sure, than RF. How about a favorite football player? Do you guys have a favorite football player or a coach that you really looked up to growing up that really inspired you? I know, Cody, you talked about your family's ties.
Yeah, obviously from that personal, you see my dad kind of day in and day out and all that kind of stuff. But as a 49ers fan, I went with Bill Walsh when their favorite player, though, was Ronnie Lott. And just like tough-nosed dude, could get after it. It's hard for me to admit that I like an offensive guy too, but Barry Sanders would be pretty high up there. I'm glad I never had to game plan that guy, though. That would have been miserable, I would think.
I think growing up, I liked Roger Staubach as a quarterback. I always thought he was really great and enjoyed watching him play. And Tom Landry, I thought he was a really great coach as a kid, watching the Cowboys at the time. And Tony Dungy's another coach who I have really enjoyed just watching before. I don't know him, but really respect what he did and how he did it and the impact he's had on people outside of the coaching world. Those would probably be players and coaches that kind of come to mind for me.
You talk about all these Colts, Coach Mack, and I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, and man, I just despise those guys for so long just because they've been my bully. But they're so likable. It's really frustrating. Coach Dungy's just an all-time guy, and Andrew Luck, the run he had, and obviously the sheriff Peyton Manning. So yeah, you like him. I understand it, but man, we'll wrap things up with two more parting things. So one, I want you guys to send a message to the Central faithful, some final thoughts heading into the season. And if you're not a part of the Central faithful, if you're coming to Pella for a game, what's one place in town where you think we have to stop for a meal? What's a favorite? I know there's probably a few because you mentioned just the cohesion that the community has, but if you had to pick one, could you give us one?
My guess is we have the same one.
I'm ready to hear it.
Coach Mack?
I'd say it's George's Pizza.
Yes.
Yeah. I always tell people, if I ever go the electric chair, that's going to be my last meal before they zap me. It'll be a large Canadian bacon. So it's a great place. It's locally owned, and they've been here forever. If you're an alum, you've gone to George's, you come back. The first night I was here, when I hired, I'm like, I'm going to go to George's and get a pizza. I had it with Eric Jones, and we just sat and talked, and that was the first place I ate when I moved back to Pella. And so it's a great place. It's right downtown, and yeah, the people there are awesome, and the food's great, and not just pizza. That's what they're known for, but I have never had a bad meal there. So it's always really good. I like it a lot.
They got everything. And yeah, but pizza's the go-to. That's where my group of buddies, we ate every Friday night. If we weren't traveling, we had a meal here during the season. We ate George's pizza. That was our good luck meal. And I still eat probably more George's pizza than I should. In fact, I made my wife try to make my favorite one they have. It's called the hot. So it's sausage, pepperoni, jalapenos, and red pepper flakes. And I made my wife learn how to try to make it homemade. And she got good at it. Not quite as good as George's. Don't tell her I said that. You can edit that part out. But it's the real deal.
That's in the Rolodex for me the next time I go to Pella. But gentlemen, we just want to say thanks again for taking the time to talk with us and really tell us a little bit more about yourselves and the Central program. That's the goal of the Sports Guys Iowa deal that we started, is we want to try to showcase all of these great institutions that we have and these great programs in the state of Iowa. I think I shouldn't say a misconception, but I don't think people realize just how well we have it. From a talent perspective, from the high school and the collegiate level here, there's a lot of great student athletes littered throughout the state. Thank you guys for having some impacts on thousands of players and student athletes, and best of luck with the 2026 season. Okay, guys?
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having us.